Morning. For all of you, it's morning. For me, it's 7 p.m. here. My name is Dennis Torres. Thank you for attending this session, Synapse Analytics Beyond the Basics. I'm a data platform MVP, trainer with some certifications, and I'm the user group leader of Malta Data Platform User Group. You are all invited to visit our site, and on the side you have my contacts. Feel free to keep in contact, ask me questions. If you have any questions that we can't address during the session, you can ask me. During the session, I will talk about many concepts. They are a bit complex. Synapse Analytics involve many concepts. So if you feel in doubt about about any of these concepts, you can ask questions in the end of the session or send me an email later and we address it. Of course, you all already note my accent because I'm a Brazilian, so my native language is Portuguese. I'm living in Malta, where they speak a bit of English from England English, and talking for you in United States. So it's a bit mix of language. So let's start. What's Synapse Analytics? What's Synapse Analytics? This picture from 1980. In fact, these pictures can represent us before Synapse Analytics. To handle all the challenge of the data platform, we were like this, using many different tools, one tool to handle each challenge. And what happens is that with Synapse Analytics, which is in public preview, now we have a single tool which can handle all the tasks. Like this transformation from these many devices from the 80s to the cell phone, that's the transformation Synapse Analytics is bringing to us. So, Synapse Analytics. What tools exactly Synapse Analytics is integrating? It's integrating tools to ingest data. This means ETL tools, more specifically, Data Factory. This doesn't mean Data Factory will disappear. No. It's an integration. Data Factory still exists. You can work with Data Factory isolated, or you can get into Synapse Analytics and from Synapse Analytics create Data Factory, data flows and pipelines and so on. Querying and processing. This is the core of the Synapse Analytics. This is from Synapse Analytics is the core of this tool, and in fact, it can be broken in many pieces. We'll talk more about this. And finally, visualization tool. Which visualization tool? Power BI. What happens is the same. Inside Synapse Analytics, we can make an integration with a Power BI workspace, and from inside Synapse Analytics, we can develop Power BI dashboard inside this workspace integrated with Synapse Analytics. So let's start talking about querying and processing. History 101. Let's get back and talk about the data platform history, the past. Once upon a time, we had data warehouses. Data warehouses were used to aggregate data from many production systems in a structured model using a star structure or a snowflake structure, like this image you are seeing. However, this that I just mentioned is the current definition of the data warehouse. It's not the original definition of the data warehouse. There is a small difference. Originally, the data warehouse was built to handle both structured and unstructured data. However, at that time when this arrived, we had many tools to handle structured data, but we hadn't many tools to handle unstructured data. So according the tools get evolved, many people just forgot the unstructured data. You will see in many technical articles, in many technical sessions, people talking about data warehouse as the structure part, and forgetting that the definition of the data warehouse is bigger than that. It means the structure and unstructured. But this is another subject. I may blog a bit about this because this may have consequence on the result. Then, after the data warehouse, according to technology evolved with the arrival of the internet, we also got big data. Imagine you develop an application to be used worldwide, and you need to get data from millions of users at the same time. Or you develop a phone application, and there are millions of people using your application, and you are collecting data from millions of users. The amount of data involved is huge, and the techniques used to collect this data needs to be changed. It's not the regular technique of structured database, a relational database, receiving queries and inserts. The technique to collect this data changed a lot. That's when we have the big data involving this, the technology to collect the data and the technology to process the data. When we talk about the name big data, many people consider the name big data as something generic because it doesn't specify one technology. When we mention big data, we are mostly talking about the ingestion of the data when we receive the data with huge amount of data and the processing of this data. But this data also needs to be stored. And once the store challenge arrived, a new concept were created. Oh, sorry, I have a slide here to talk a bit about big data. I was talking about ingestion. This is an ingestion architecture for big data. It's called Lambda architecture. As you can notice, it uses string analytics, event hub to receive the data and distribute the data to two different paths, and distributes to string analytics to Azure Data Factory, and then we have a database. Could be SQL Server, no problem with that, and here it's using Azure Cosmos DB, no problem. And this is a Lambda architecture ingesting big data. Big data is also about processing. Here you are seeing the processing of used in big data. In big data, we are talking about MPP, parallel processing with different compute nodes. We use a control node, and you use many compute nodes, many different compute nodes to process a huge amount of data, to process a very huge amount of data. The control node breaks the data distributes the data to the compute nodes. The compute nodes will read the data, process the data, and then the control node will match the processing results and return the final result of the processing. This is an MPP architecture, and Synapse Analytics is about it, parallel processing. So, maybe you could ask, do I need parallel processing to make a data warehouse? No, not really, not always. If you have a small set of data and you just want to build a data structure like a star structure for your small set of data, you don't need a parallel processing structure. You can build this structure inside SQL Server. You can use Azure SQL DB or Azure SQL Managed Instance. No problem is that. You can use them to store a small data warehouse. When will you evolve to Synapse? You will evolve to Synapse when you need parallel processing. When you have a huge amount of data in your environment and you need parallel processing. So Synapse is not only about building data warehouse. We could have the misconcept in the marketing that, oh, if I need a data warehouse, I need to use Synapse. No, it's not that. You need Synapse to build big data warehouse and to deal with big data. For the small warehouse solutions, you don't need Synapse. Big data projects can be very challenging, as you will see on the picture. And with big data involves the parallel processing and the ingestion. And where this data is stored? Then a new concept arrives. It's the concept of data lake. The data lake concept. What happens with the data lake? Why we need another concept, a data lake? Because the amount of data which big data brings to us is huge, is absolutely huge. So we can't anymore keep moving this data. Let's say we have two-way, the processing two-way, the processing to be different softwares want to process the data. We can't be moving this data to the softwares. So the name data lake is used to mention a data that should not be moved, should be static at that point. I'm not meaning static that the data will not be changing, but it will not be moved to another place. If you want to process something in a data lake, we provision a service, a processing service, like a Spark pool, like a SQL pool. We provision a service, and from the service, we access the information in the data lake and process the information without really moving the information to another place to be processed. So the data lake is so huge that the information will not move anymore. The idea. But if you need data quality practice, otherwise, as the picture mentions, it can become a swamp instead of a lake. So, data warehouse. The data warehouse deals with structured data. And now I'm accepting the modern definition of the data warehouse. The data warehouse will deal with structured data. The data lake will deal with unstructured data and big data, with both. So data warehouse deals with structure and data lake deals with unstructured and big data. So they decide to marry. They had a marriage, and now we have data lake house. Yes, data lake house. I'm not a fan of this word, as I explained it on the beginning. From my point of view, data warehouse covers all these scenarios, but now we have a new word, data lakehouse, which involve dealing with both kinds of data, structured and unstructured, and big data, dealing with all these kinds of data. Synapse Analytics is considered a data lakehouse tool because that's what it does. It deals with all these kinds of data. So it deals with structured, unstructured, and big data in a single tool. Like I said in the beginning, before Synapse Analytics, we had to go to different tools to deal with this different data. In Synapse Analytics, you don't need anymore. And it's not it, just it. See this example. Besides the data lakehouse, we also have ingestion techniques, ingestion tools inside the Synapse Analytics. And that's not all yet. So Synapse Analytics. Let's talk about the main piece of Synapse Analytics, which is query processing. Synapse Analytics is organized in workspace. When we want to work with Synapse Analytics, we create a Synapse Analytics workspace. Inside the workspace, we can create pools. There are three kinds of pools. One of these pools is the pool. When we create the workspace, we already receive the SQL On Demand pool. We already have this. Then we can create one or more SQL pools and one or more Spark pools to work inside this workspace. What's the difference? What's the difference of this item? Spark, you may be familiar with the name Spark, will deal with unstructured data, with lots and lots of unstructured data using an MPP architecture, which is used by Spark. The SQL pool will deal with structured data using an MPP architecture, parallel processing architecture, which is usual of SQL Data Warehouse. Yes, that's it. The old SQL Data Warehouse evolved as a SQL pool. There are many people in the market saying, oh, Synapse Analytics is the new SQL Data Warehouse. Not exactly. Synapse Analytics, as you can see, is way bigger than SQL Data Warehouse. Synapse Analytics, SQL Data Warehouse is inside Synapse Analytics as a SQL pool. One SQL pool is one SQL Data Warehouse. And Synapse Analytics aggregates all the other tools as well. And what is SQL On Demand? Well, a SQL pool is provisioned and you pay by hour of use of these servers. SQL On Demand is the ability to run a SQL query from a non-provisioned environment. We will just open a query window and run a SQL query, just that. Just that. Will be charged by the amount of data our query process. On the demo, I will show why to use this. And as I was saying, SQL Pool is the evolution of Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Azure SQL Data Warehouse turned one element inside the Synapse Analytics. It became SQL Pool. And it's good because no one more will make mistakes with the name. Many people believed they need an Azure SQL Data Warehouse to make a data warehouse, and this is the situation I explained. A small data warehouse don't need the parallel processing this tool provides. A small data warehouse can be stored in a simple SQL server. You don't need all this. You need this for big data warehouses. External objects. Our scenario in Synapse Analytics use external objects to access information. Access information where? Anywhere. I will make demonstration exchanging structured and unstructured information. I will show that SQL Server, SQL Pool, and SQL On Demand can access unstructured information and get unstructured information for their processing using external objects. What are external objects? External objects are a kind of objects which are part of Polybase feature in SQL Server. Polybase was created in SQL Server 2016, but it evolved a lot. It evolved so much that it completely changed to Synapse. It's something different. External objects involves a data source. I can map a container in a blob storage as a data source inside my SQL database. Involves an external table, which I can create, and a file format. I need to define the file format. Since the data is unstructured, I need to create a definition of which format this data is using. Is it using CSV? Is it using Parquet? Which format this data is using? I need to specify that. I built this slide this way because I need a data source and I need a file format to build the table. The table points to the data source and points to the file format, indicating which format are the files in that data source the table will read. Let's see a demonstration of many of these concepts. So here I'm on a Synapse workspace. I'm seeing the Synapse workspace in Azure, and I can see here the pools. I have a SQL pool and Apache Spark 2 pool. I have a sizing for them. Let me get back. I have a sizing for them. The on-demand pool doesn't appear immediately here. It only appears when I click on SQL pools. Then I see the on-demand pool. It only appears when I click on SQL pools. And how do I start working with this powerful environment? Well, a new tool had to be created. So Microsoft created the Synapse Studio. Synapse Studio is the tool you will use to develop and build your Synapse Analytics environment. Let's open Synapse Studio. Loading, that's it. This is the Synapse Studio environment. Mind what I mentioned, I have options to ingest data, explore data, analyze data, and visualize data. If I click the option New, I can create SQL script. I can create notebooks in many different syntax language. I can create data flows. I'm talking about the data factory data flows. From here, from inside Synapse Analytics, I can create data factory data flows. I can create the Spark job definitions. I can create pipeline. Pipelines are from Data Factory. So let's start. I'll click here in Data. Here in Data, I'm seeing two databases. I'm seeing MySQL pool and the Spark pool. Let's open here a new script. I'm linked to MySQL pool, but I don't want to be linked to MySQL pool now. My first demo will be on SQL On Demand. You see that SQL On Demand doesn't even have a database in the beginning. There is no database for SQL On Demand. It's just an environment for me to run SQL queries. If I want to make some details easier, I probably would like to create a database. That's what I will do. So let me copy all the demos for SQL On Demand. I'll create database called New York Taxi. That's it. Create an external data source. This external data source is pointing to a public blob storage hosted by Microsoft. So I will create an external data source. Sorry, I created the database, but I can't create the external data source in the master. I need to change the database. Make a refresh here. See my New York Taxi database. Now I will be able to create the data source. And I can make a refresh here as well, because now I will see three databases. Now the database I created for SQL On Demand is also included in the database list. So I will create the external data source, NIT public, another data source. This other data source is pointing to a private storage which I created, but I opened this private storage to be accessible for anonymous reading. So for now, I don't need to provide credentials. But here I have another storage which is not open without credentials. Then I need to provide credentials. In order to provide credentials here, for anyone who had used Polybase, this is not too different. Until now, this is similar, although the parameters of the items are a bit different. What I need to do to manage the credential, I need to create a master key in the database to manage encryption. Then I need to get from the storage the shared access signature, SAS, from the storage. The manager of the storage needs to provide this to me. So I create a database scoped credential for this credential. Then I create the external data source using a credential to access the external data source. That's using SQL On Demand, I can use open host sets to query information from the servers, especially if I'm using Parquet files, because Parquet files already have a schema inside the file. So what I'm doing here, I'm specifying a data source, SQL On Demand Demo. It's this SQL On Demand. With the data source, SQL Server will know where to go, to which storage to go. Okay, but I use the option book, and on the option book, I need to specify a path to access the files. And I'm talking about files in plural. when we are dealing with unstructured information inside a storage, a blob storage, this information can be broken in many small files, many different small files. So mind the path I'm using a star. I'll get all the files with extension Parquet. Let's execute this query. This query will take some time, 20 seconds. Oh, it may be in cache. So 4 seconds to execute. Great. Is a great time. I got only 100 records because the amount of records there is huge. It would take a lot of time. But this query took 4 seconds to execute. One interesting thing about the Parquet format is the Parquet format is columnar. So if I choose to get less columns instead all of the columns, here I'm making a group by, it will be even faster. 1 second faster. But the problem is, even when the previous one is not in cache, reading less columns can be way faster. So I have here passenger count and the total. I aggregated the passenger count to see what's the amount the taxi drivers get from each set of amount of passengers they get. If they get 2 passengers, how much do they earn? If they get 3 passengers, how much they usually earn, and so on. And since I have an interesting information to analyze, I can move my tab to a chart, choose the category column as passenger count, and that's it. I'm seeing here 2 passengers is the most common. I removed the one because the one of one single passenger, of course, is the most common in this database. 2 passengers is the most common, then 3, 6, then later 4 and 5. So we can build a graph on my query panel. From the query panel, I can see a graph analyzing the information already. And I have not got the information from the blob storage. The information is there on the blob storage. I read the information from the blob storage and I'm analyzing it. Another example. Now I'm reading a data with format CSV. What's the difference from format CSV to format Parquet? CSV doesn't have a schema. Since CSV doesn't have a schema, when I'm reading a CSV, I'm obliged to specify the schema. So I need to specify this schema. Let's get back to the table. So I read 200 records from the geography table in CSV format. That's it. I can create an external table from this data. Yeah, I can create an external table from this data. I created a database in SQL On Demand. Then I will create an external table. But there is something very interesting about SQL On Demand. In SQL On Demand, I don't have tables. I have external tables and external resources. But in SQL On Demand, I don't have tables. This pool only deals with external data. It doesn't store data. It deals only with external data. So we use SQL On Demand to get information about anything which is outside our environment. So I will create an external table. Oh, I know what this is. I missed this. I can't put the file format here. Sorry for this. I missed one detail on this instruction. I'll fix quickly. For the format, in this case, creating the external table, I need to create the external file format, Parquet, created, and I will specify the Parquet format. Oh, the location. Just no. Oh, it's saying that it already exists. Let's check the storage. I have the storage open here. I can delete this folder. That's it. So now I execute again. In fact, I will demonstrate this on the SQL pool, this on the SQL On Demand. Mind that Synapse Analytics is still on public preview. It still has bugs. This is some kind of bug when exporting in Parquet format. But the syntax is this: I create the table based on a select from an open row set. So I'm getting this data and moving to another blob storage, from one blob storage to another blob storage. That's it. Then the rest are regular queries. I will run a bit more with the demos because we are almost running short in time. So SQL pool, let's create a new script on SQL pool. Not much different. Create external data source in IT public. Create an external data source. The external data source is in external resources, NAT public. Create file formats. I have 3 file formats to create. That's it. So I'm creating file formats to be used for my tables. And I'll create an schema. Why I'm creating schema? Oh, already existed. Some details of this demo are already executed. The schema already exists. So why I would create a schema? I'd create a schema because here in the SQL pool, here I can have tables. The SQL pool is basically SQL Data Warehouse. If you worked with SQL Data Warehouse before, this is the SQL pool. That's it. So it's basically the SQL Data Warehouse. So here in the SQL pool, you can have tables. So I keep the external tables in a different schema est. In this example, only in this example. Create another scope credential. Already exists, I had created before. An external data source. I forgot. That's it. Now I can create external tables like this example. I create an external table. Here, instead of using directly the open row set, I create external tables. I don't use open row set on a SQL pool. I create external tables. If you don't know the fields and so on, you can use open row set in SQL On Demand to analyze what's there and then define the tables you need to create. Now I read 100 records. So specifically with these tables, there are some type mismatches here. There is an interesting feature on the editor to change many items at the same time. I will drop external table as strip and create again. Drop, create again. And now make the select. Okay, it's a data mismatch. It's just about selecting the correct data there. Let me try with a smaller select, removing some columns. No, it's just exactly these items have a problem. Let's create another table. This other table will work better. Sorry for the bugs on the demos. I prepared some of them in the last minute. So I had these problems. And now here, I can use the create external table as select from the table geography. Let's do this. I'll create the external table as select. Let's check that we don't have the geography folder. No, we don't have. And now, oops. Okay. I create an external table, so I haven't created a table inside my SQL pool. I create a table in a blob storage. Geography local is the name of the table. So if I make a refresh here, I have the folder geography created with a Parquet file. here. So I created an external table in the blob storage using a SQL query. I read the data from one blob storage and created in another one. There are way more to talk about the SQL pool. It's impossible to talk in a single session because SQL pool is SQL Data Warehouse. Everything you know about SQL Data Warehouse, round robin, distributions, priority of workloads, and so on, exists here. It's SQL Data Warehouse. Okay. Let's go to the other features. As I mentioned, I can create a pipeline. Anyone who have worked with Azure Data Factory will recognize the interface. You are seeing the interface of Azure Data Factory inside Synapse Analytics. That's it. From here, I can create, manage, and execute the pipeline. And not only the pipeline. Let's go to develop. I have a data flow. I can also create a data flow. This is the interface to create a data flow from inside Synapse Analytics. So I have all these features inside Synapse Analytics. And I have Power BI. I need to make a configuration to link Synapse Analytics with a workspace in Power BI. So I'll be able to create Power BI dashboards from the Synapse Analytics environment. Inside Synapse Analytics environment, I'll be able to create the dashboards. Why I would like that? Because I'm making everything in a single environment. I'm ingesting the data, processing the data, and visualizing the data in a single environment. So this is making everything way easier to the professionals. The professionals don't need to know in details 3, 4, 5 tools with different trainings and so on. No, they will handle one tool, Synapse Analytics. So let's back to the PowerPoint, just way fast because our time is going out. The rest was just to explain the entire process: ingest, store, process, visualize. We saw this in the demo, that besides the main part to process and query, we have the ingestion with Data Factory and the visualization with Power BI. So with the pools, and here we see what we can create involving all these tools. So as the initial picture, Synapse Analytics is aggregating many tools in a single environment to make our work easier. We saw this in the demo, and some links, free training about Synapse Analytics, about SQL Server 2019, and you'll see something about Synapse Analytics there. Thank you very much for attending this session. Here you have my contact, and now I would like to know if anyone has any question.
We have a few questions, Dennis. The first one is, does Azure Databricks works or behave same in Azure Synapse Analytics, or are there some differences?
Data groups. Can I see the question? Can I see the question?
You should be able to see them. Do you see the
chat?
Do you see the questions?
Yes, it's possible to use roles and ID security. No problem with that. You can use ID security. Is one of the questions that I'm seeing here. This will be available for a watch. Yes, this is being recorded.
Yeah, at the bottom though, there's 4 questions for you. Starting with the Azure Databricks.
Sorry?
There's Azure Databricks question near the bottom.
Near the bottom of the chat?
Yes.
The last one I'm seeing is a question about TDE.
Yeah, keep going. So the question is, does Azure Databricks work or behave the same in Azure Synapse Analytics, or are there some differences?
No, the same.
It's the same. Okay, great. And they asked if you would please share your GitHub repo.
Yes, I don't have this here now. I don't have the link here now. Send me an email or call me on any this contact information and I share the GitHub. No problem.
Okay, great. And can we also create tabular model in Azure Synapse Analytics?
You can't create tabular model in Azure Synapse Analytics because that's not the purpose. Synapse Analytics works with the data. For example, you can create a star schema in Synapse Analytics inside the SQL pool, and a star schema would be the source for your tabular model. But you can create a tabular model in Power BI. And Synapse Analytics will be linked with the Power BI workspace. You don't have this feature now at this moment, but for sure this will evolve. Last year they were already talking about evolve the integration with Power BI to create data flows and then create the tabular models. It's Power BI who will supply the ability to create a tabular model for Synapse Analytics.
Okay, great. And that was it. And someone just commented that nice presentation. So good job.
Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed. You can keep in contact, send me any questions. I mentioned many different concepts like from data warehouse, data lake, big data, Parquet files, CSVs, Polybase. If you have any question about these concepts, feel free to contact me. Send an email, a smoke sign, anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Bye. Enjoy the other sessions on the event.
Yes.